Welcome, welcome, welcome to Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here from Phoenix, Arizona, IA. Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff has been, a longtime friend of the show for, over a decade. And in fact, he spoke at one of our freedom summits that we had in mid-2000s and impressed everybody. He knew what was up before anybody knew there was a Peter Schiff. Well, I'm telling you, Peter Schiff, he's right a bunch of times. And I want to see how right he's going to be on gold, dummy. What about that crypto stuff? I want to talk about the Genius Act, the crypto, stable coins. You got to put your retirement in, but you got to buy treasuries and crypto. There's some weird stuff going on. And behind the scenes, I'm really interested in silver. It seems like that's been manipulated, and I've got a billionaire coming out going, you know what, I'm buying a bunch of silver. So this is Peter Schiff time. This is, you're right. Again, So, but one thing I want to get right out of the bat here. You were invited to speak at a lot of crypto. I was at the Las Vegas Bitcoin conference, and there you are. I saw you. I don't know if you saw me. I just kind of waved, while you were doing something. You're busy, but I'm going, damn, man. They love to hate you or something. What's going on with that, Peter?
Well, I mean, they love to hate me because a lot of them bought Bitcoin because of me, right? I turned them on to free market economics and sound money. And somewhere along the way, that message kind of got some static and they ended up in Bitcoin. But, and for some of those people, it was a fortuitous, misunderstanding because they ended up making a lot of money, right? Because people who heard me talking 10 years ago about, Austrian economics and fiat money and my criticisms of the Federal Reserve and my forecast for inflation. And if they ended up buying Bitcoin at a few $100s or even a few $1,000s, well, they've clearly made a lot more money than had they bought what I wanted them to buy, which was gold, even though gold has gone up too. When I first wrote that book that you're showing, gold was just $300-400 an ounce. And, now it's, $3,300 and change. So it's up tenfold, but obviously that pales in comparison to the meteoric rise of Bitcoin. But, Bitcoin actually peaked out 4 years ago. Bitcoin is about 15% lower today than it was 4 years ago, priced in gold. And I think most of the people who own Bitcoin have bought it over the last 4 years. And so those people would have been better off with gold. But yeah, the people who bought initially. But it also depends on when they get out. I mean, if they don't sell and Bitcoin crashes down to practically nothing, well, then the fact that they had a paper profit isn't going to mean anything. That's
right.
Why
you keep saying that it's going to crash. It's going to crash. It's going to crash, and it doesn't. But my thing is that I think there are other issues that I'm not. I don't. Okay, I just let people know I don't have any Bitcoin. I did, and I've done, and I went to other, well, I have some other cryptos, for other reasons. But the reason is because what I saw in Las Vegas really affected me. I was like, oh my God, really? What happened was all these people that I know, that I love, that have been, embracing freedom at a fundamental level. But Ernie, we're getting filthy, stinking rich, okay? And I'm going, well, where's the digital cash part? I mean, that was the whole draw for me, is being able to have, I could spend it on the internet and be private. Well, it's anonymous, but it's pseudo-anonymous. And I had to look up pseudo, and it means not. And I go, what the hell? I'm getting lied to all the time. So what happens is that I'm looking for the bubblegum money, the cheap transaction, the fast, the promise of blockchain and what it has developed, in a lot of different currencies. It's very fast, secure, so far, we haven't got to quantum yet, but I see that these people have given up the privacy and the third-party risk that's eliminated with precious metals for really just making money. And I'm going, wait. If you made all this money, well, take some of that and put it towards freedom. I'm just saying. Now that you're all crypto rich and you don't need your second yacht anymore, go ahead and put something into privacy, into anonymity, into Fremont. We just had a developer from Zano on right before you, and I'm. This is my goal, and everything that you've been saying, and the people that went to crypto because Peter Schiff. I remember, was it 05, 04, 05 or something in New Hampshire? We had a Freedom Summit there. You came and everybody went, oh, well, he said he sees what's coming. And then the housing crash, which you said was coming, you made your clients a bunch of money on shorts on that, and then they want you to stay in. You go, nope, they're not going to have it to pay us off. We got to get out now. So this was, you've demonstrated that you know what's up. So now, what's up? The crypto is a thing, but it's only by government fiat again. Yes, you can take your retirement and put into this here, special thing that we want stable linked to treasuries or whatever. What do you know about that? What do you think this is a sign of what's going to be tripping?
Well, first of all, the reason that all the Bitcoiners, they basically sold their souls to the devil to get Wall Street and the government in bed with them on Bitcoin and to give up all that stuff. And now most of the people buying Bitcoin are buying it in ETFs or buying it through companies, public companies that buy Bitcoin. They call themselves Bitcoin treasury companies. So, the whole, not your keys, not your coin, self-custody stuff all went out the window in order to, clean up the image for Wall Street to get involved and the government. Meanwhile, there's gold. You could just buy gold. You have all your privacy. You have all your anonymity. You have your own custody. And, of course, the whole idea, the premise was, well, you can't use your gold to buy a cup of coffee. Well, you can't use your Bitcoin to buy a cup of coffee, but you actually can use your gold if you tokenize it. I mean, gold lends itself to tokenization. And there's now a lot of companies that are tokenizing gold and coming out with cryptocurrencies completely backed by gold and redeemable in gold. You could actually use those as a medium of exchange. You can't use Bitcoin because it's too slow and too expensive and too volatile, but the gold tokens are not. They don't have any of those problems. The whole thing is just a complete nonsense. And of course, now you got all these other tokens. When Bitcoin first came on the scene, it kind of was the only one. Now you got tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. Who knows how many cryptos are out there? So the whole thing is ridiculous. But the problem is we are on the verge now, Ernie, of another crisis because the mistakes that George Bush made that led to the 2008 crisis, they're actually small in comparison to the mistakes that Trump is making. And Trump has inherited an even bigger problem from Biden than the one that Bush inherited from Clinton. In fact, things weren't even nearly that bad. He had a stock market bubble on his hands. But nothing like the bubble that Trump's got. And by the way, Trump is complicit in inflating that bubble because it got a lot bigger during the 4 years of his first administration. But the stuff he's doing now is even worse. It's even more reckless and more inflationary. And so I think we're on the verge now of a dollar crisis and sovereign debt crisis. That's why gold is at new record highs. That's why gold stocks are the best performing stocks this year. In fact, Newmont Mining is by far now the number one performing stock in the S&P 500. It's beating all the tech stocks. Right? This is very rare for something like that to happen, and it's telling you something, right? You can't just ignore this and pretend it doesn't exist or that it's not related to an imminent problem in the U.S. dollar, in the U.S. Treasury market, with our whole economy.
This is one thing I want to make sure that we talk about. I have a lot of friends, wealthy supporters and so on that are gold mining stocks, mining. But I keep track, I take a look, see how they're doing and so on. They're not going up. I mean, they are now, but they held off for so long. Why? What was it?
I talked about that, as I was encouraging people to buy these stocks because, the Wall Street was giving them away. I have, a company, Schiff Gold, where we sell physical gold and silver. But in April, I actually upsetted some of the guys that work for me because I told people not to buy any physical gold right now, to buy the gold mining stocks instead, because they were so ridiculously cheap. Gold was trading over $3,000 an ounce, and it had moved there in 1 year, yet the stocks were still where they were when gold was at $2,000. And that's because stock investors did not believe the move. They thought gold was going to go down. And I kept saying, no, it's going to go up even more. So I told people, don't buy gold above ground from Schiff Gold. Buy gold mining stocks, because then you own the gold that's still in the ground. And, you know, gold is up 35% this year. Gold stocks are up 110%. So you've got triple the return on gold stocks had you bought gold. Now, gold stocks are not the ridiculous value they were earlier in the year, in the first quarter. Because I came out with my report in April, and all of the gains in gold this year basically happened from April till now. I mean, gold stocks were hardly doing anything in the first quarter. In fact, we were getting a lot of people selling. In fact, I had massive liquidations, the most I've ever had. I have a Euro-Pacific gold fund, and I had all of these clients in the fourth quarter of last year after Trump got elected, and the first quarter of this year, we had a lot of investors selling my gold fund because they thought, okay, Trump won. It's going to be great for the economy. I don't have to worry about inflation anymore. I don't have to worry about problems, so I don't need these gold stocks. And it was the worst decision they could have possibly made because they missed out on basically a double from where they got out. But worse, I think these stocks are going to double and double again over the next couple of years. And if they don't get back in, that's going to be an even bigger mistake than getting out in the first place.
Yeah, but they didn't get that 9,000% of I bought the right crypto pump and dump and got out thing.
Well, that was a long time ago. The easy money was already made in Bitcoin. Now it's going to be lost. The people who are buying Bitcoin now are going to lose money. In fact, Bitcoin is still below its high from over a month ago, right? Gold keeps making new highs. Silver has broken out to new 14-year highs. Bitcoin's not going up. And that's despite massive efforts by Wall Street to pump it up.
Right.
And not just Wall Street. The Trump administration is completely behind Bitcoin, and it's still not going up.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna do this. I want to make a comment, give you a scenario, and then you tell me how far off I am. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Enormous amounts of inflation that has been pumped in over the years, even just last few, into the world is coming back. And this is what we've been fearing for decades. Libertarians have been going, what happens when all those dollars come home? What happens when somebody else starts using gold? What happens when they use, daily transactions as silver or the bricks, or they come to anything else because the U.S. dollar, sons of bitches, got to go. Okay? What happens then?
Well,
gold shoots up. That's one thing.
Well, but one of the things that Trump and his advisors don't understand, unless they're just lying, and so you never know with politicians whether they're just ignorant or they're lying, right? But those are usually the only choices.
Oh, their lips moving? I mean, yeah.
But the United States completely depends on what amounts to the charity of the rest of the world. What happens is our economy is deficient in capital investment and production. We don't save enough, and so we don't build enough factories, and we don't produce enough stuff. Yet we consume more than anybody else. So how do we, bridge that gap between what we produce and what we consume? Well, we rely on the rest of the world to supply us with all that stuff, right? So we have these $1 trillion plus a year trade deficits, and Donald Trump is critical of the trade deficits. They are a problem, but they're not the source. They're the consequence of the problem. The consequences are, our lack of industrial manufacturing. We lost all that thanks to bad monetary and fiscal and regulatory policy. The consequence is that, we have these huge deficits. But in the short run, or for the last several decades, we've relied on these deficits as a crutch to keep the economy moving. Now, at the same time, the $1 trillion a year deficits that we run with the rest of the world, what does the world do with all that income? They loan it back to us. They buy our bonds. They buy our mortgage-backed securities. They buy our stocks. So one of the main reasons that stock prices are still so high and interest rates are still so low, and they are low, even though Trump wants them lower, they're low now. The reason is because foreigners loan us all this money and bid up our stock prices. So what Trump is trying to do is put an end to this. But he's going about it the wrong way. He's not trying to solve the underlying problem of America's lack of production and lack of savings and all that. He's just trying to get the rest of the world to stop doing this without understanding that we're the ones ripping them off. They're getting the short end of the stick. They do all the work, and we just enjoy the fruits of their labor. Right? They do all the saving, and we just borrow and spend. They do the production. So we are close to a complete implosion in our entire economy, which rests on the foundation of the U.S. dollar being the reserve currency, because the only reason foreigners hold all of our bonds and lend us all this money is because they had confidence in the dollar. That confidence is in the process of being destroyed right now, especially by Trump and his attack on Fed independence, which in my mind was always just, a pretense anyway. But now they're dropping the pretense, and they're putting all this political pressure on the Fed to create inflation and devalue the dollar. That's basically a sell signal to the dollar, and, that's going to bring this whole thing toppling down.
Okay, answer me this. This is the question I want to get to. With all of these dollars coming back, not renewing their bond investments, whatever country, take your pick, to sop up all of those extra dollars, to try and get you, what would gold be if they weren't able to sop them up? And that they did crypto as a mechanism for sucking up a bunch of excess dollars. We'll put it in crypto. We'll put it over here. Then they say, all right, we're going to take, and you're able to go, it's like China telling their people to go buy gold, except in the United States, they don't do that. They go to the people and they say, all that 401k money you got there, you should go buy Bitcoin with it. And Saylor up there at Las Vegas was really, I was very uncomfortable with him up there going, buy a bunch of Bitcoin, hodl, get it for your kids, your grandkids, your parents. I mean, he was really pimping it.
He didn't just tell people to buy it. He told people to go into debt to buy it. He said, mortgage your house, take out a loan against your business. It's the most irresponsible. Wow. But he's just trying to pump up the price of Bitcoin. The reason that the Trump administration is trying to get people to buy Bitcoin so his family can sell theirs and all their other shit coins that they've come out with. I mean, it's all a giant pump and dump. But now you've got the U.S. government doing the pumping, and the insiders are doing the dumping. And the American public that's dumb enough to fall for this, they're going to be left holding the bag. And of course, I think the government does like it if Americans don't buy gold. Oh, shoot. Hello?
Yeah, you're there. Your monitor went something.
Yeah, am I still here?
Yeah, you're there.
We had some kind of power outage.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
There. Yeah. Can you hear me?
No, now you're back. Yeah, I think the government likes it when Americans buy Bitcoin.
Your background is messed up, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think Americans like it.
No. On your screen, it's your green screen setting thing.
Yeah. I know. I've got to change it now. What did I have on there before? I think I had Europe Pacific Asset Management.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but the U.S. government likes it when people buy Bitcoin because that means they're not buying gold. Right? They're buying, and so the government doesn't like the price of gold going up because it's basically the canary in the coal mine. And gold is the biggest competitor with the U.S. dollar. But it's unfortunate because while the Chinese are doing the right thing and buying gold, Americans are wasting their money buying Bitcoin because the Bitcoin is going to eventually collapse, leaving Americans with nothing. Yet the Chinese are going to be much richer because they bought gold.
That's one thing that you and I experienced. We go through the 08 Ron Paul revolution thing. We have the 12, and you actually dipped your toe in a Senate run. We see behind the curtain. I mean, know what's up. This pump by the government for buying Bitcoin it's 180 degrees on steroids with a rocket sled than what it was even a few years ago. And we could tell what was going. Nope, you're not allowed to promote this financial device because we're not sitting there ready to take all the money for it and let us get our infrastructure set and then we'll push it. And that's what I see.
Well, I think it's one of the worst things. I mean, Trump has done a lot of bad things economically. It's very frustrating that he's really kind of a socialist when it comes to economic policy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really have much, respect for the Constitution or the legitimate constitutional functions of the presidency. He's trying to usurp all sorts of power. And that's very dangerous precedent to set for future presidents who will do even more damage. Imagine if we get AOC as president and she does, a lot of the stuff using the powers that Trump, created precedents for. And hopefully the Supreme Court strikes down some of this shit so we don't establish that precedent. But the fact that the U.S. government is doing this, I mean, they created this whole strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now, at least they haven't been dumb enough to actually buy any Bitcoin for the reserve. But the reason they created it was more hype so that companies that want to unload Bitcoin can use the strategic reserve to sucker people into buying Bitcoin by saying, look, the government is buying it, so you should too. Right? But what are the smart governments buying? Right? The smart governments are buying gold. Right? We've never seen anything like what we're seeing over the last year, and
you don't see all of it. We're doing reports on. They're not showing all of the gold that China and a lot of these other places are buying.
Right, but we're not buying any gold. Right?
Yeah.
All we're talking about is buying fool's gold. Right? We should be buying gold too because we're going to need more gold. I mean, we have a lot of gold supposedly, but they still haven't audited the Federal Reserve in like 50 years, more than 50 years. So who the hell knows what we got?
Let me make. I got this question, and I need to have you understand the question and give me a clean answer on this because I need to know. The Genius Act, when they made, as an example, it's 2007, 8. I'm screaming, man, the greatest depression is coming, why we're screwed. Here we go, whatever. The housing thing happens, all this stuff, and I'm going to my family and so on. And my immediate family is pretty cool about it, but, extended family, they're like, oh, Ernie, well, then it happened. Now they're wanting to get silver. Now they're wanting to have, a little bit more touchy-feely McDuck roll around in it kind of attitude. So they go to their retirements and they say, and I've had friends, good Austrian economic libertarian, leave me alone as voluntarist friends that just screw it. What tax hit do I take? Don't care. Give me all my retirement, 401 everything. And they went and put it in silver, precious metals, whatever, just because. Well, they're a lot better off. The other people that said, that wanted to take and liquidate to get silver, they go, well, I can't. They won't let me get. I might be able to get an ETF. Kind of how they turn silver into paper. They're trying to do the same thing with cryptos. And they go, well, that sucks. You mean I can't buy silver, or it's got to be held by somebody else? Then they started to get the scales from their eyes a little bit and how manipulative this thing is. So now the government comes in and says, yep, you can access that silver gold thing. You got to buy ETF, which is paper. I mean, that don't mean nothing. But you could do it also with crypto. You take retirement, you can buy a little direct and kind of a little crypto thing. And
that's unfortunate that they're even allowing people to gamble. You might as well have people buy lottery tickets in their, 401k or their IRAs. I don't think that you should be gambling with your retirement money. If you want to gamble,
it depends it depends on what you say. I'm not for passing a law saying you can't. In fact, I'm for these initial coin offerings. They go, oh, I'm sorry, you can't do it now. You can't do it. And then if you want to buy a stock, I'm sorry, are you an approved investor?
There are special rules. I agree with you, but IRAs are different because the way the government works them is they give you a tax break for putting your money into an IRA. And there are a lot of restrictions on what you could do. and it's supposed to be there to help you in your retirement, which is why they give you the tax break. The money should not be gambled with there. I think if you're going to gamble with money, you should gamble with the money that is not in one of these accounts. And there I would agree. If you're dumb enough to buy these ICOs, buy them. But
IRAs, where's IRA? Who holds that?
Not IRAs.
Is it invested?
The IRAs are different. The IRAs are
Who
different
has it?
because but the government sets the rules for these IRA accounts already.
Oh, well, hell, I feel better already.
Yeah, like, look, you're not allowed to go on margin in an IRA. That's, there are things that you can't do in IRAs. And also brokers, when they're fiduciaries, when we're making a recommendation for an IRA, it has a different standard than a taxable account. So I don't think the government should be encouraging people to put IRA money into any crypto. But if you want to take your own money and just buy it, fine. I mean, throw it away if you want. But what I don't believe is that people should be allowed to commit fraud to induce you into buying. And I see a lot of that in the crypto industry. I see a lot of claims that are being made that if they were being made in the security industry, people would be, barred from the industry and fined and kicked out of it. So there's a lot of bad stuff going on.
Okay, why? What is the purpose? I'm getting it, because they love freedom and they want me to have more choices and they think that I'm going to, benefit from it. No, there's always something that those are getting out of this. What are they getting?
Crypto is an easy way for some people to make money at the expense of other people. Like the entire crypto industry, by and large, creates no real value. It just sucks money away from the buyers of crypto to the sellers of crypto. And since a lot of these cryptos, they just create them out of thin air and it costs next to nothing, it's a great business to be in if you can sucker people into buying the crap that you're selling. But it's not the kind of thing that the government should be encouraging. I mean, the Trump administration wants us to be the leader in this crap. Like we're supposed to lead the world in digital pyramid schemes and Ponzi's. I mean, why the hell would we want to do that? Because he says that we need to be manufacturing, which I agree. But how are we going to manufacture if we're blowing our savings on meme coins? So, it's a really bad economic policy at a time where we actually can't afford bad economic policies because stuff is already really bad.
Okay, you still got to answer my question. Why are they choosing this bad economic policy? What is it that they're hoping is going to happen?
Oh.
It's going to suck up the excess liquidity? Is it going to be to save the petrodollar? Why?
No. This all comes down to political expediency. You see, doing the right thing will necessitate a rather severe economic downturn, a bear market in stocks and real estate. Prices have to come down. Debt has to go into default. People have to lose money. The economy is all screwed up. It's not that I want people to lose money. It's just that they have to lose money. But if we pursue these policies, they'll end up losing even more. And it may not be that they lose money, but their money may lose all of its value. And that's worse. Right. So, I mean, if you have, let's say, $1 million and the U.S. government does the right thing and your $1 million becomes $500,000, all right, that's a tough break. But if they do the wrong thing and your $1 million has the purchasing power of $10,000 and you're practically wiped out, that's worse. But the reason that politicians prefer the latter example, they'd rather wipe you out in the long run.
One more election cycle.
Yeah, they don't see beyond the next election. And so the reason Trump wants to blow more air into this bubble is because that's the only way he can pretend that everything is great and take credit for it. So he doesn't want to have to accept responsibility for the economic downturn that is constructive and necessary and will lead to long-term gain. He doesn't want any of that short-term pain. He just wants to have a big party so that he can claim credit for it and leave the disaster to whoever follows him. That's his plan. And that's the same plan that every president has. It's not like Trump invented that game plan. He's just following
he's got a new plan.
Else.
No, trust in Trump. There's his new plan, okay? Yeah, we're going to go into more debt. We're going to have a shitload more debt. But we're investing in America with, I don't know, whatever infrastructure stuff. We're going to reduce regulation. We're going to grow ourselves out of it. I've never heard that before. They go, we're going to grow ourselves out of it. And it's just the debt, 38 trillion, whatever. I think it's more like 80 something. It's a lot.
Yeah,
okay?
they said, Ronald Reagan inherited about almost a $1 trillion debt from Carter. It wasn't even a trillion. It broke a trillion early in his term. And Reagan said, we're going to grow our way out of the debt. And every president since Reagan has promised that we'd grow our way out of the debt. The only thing that's grown is the debt, right? It's almost 38 trillion now.
Well, it's not even that they're saying we're going to reduce the debt. They never even say that. They just say it's going to be a smaller percentage of GDP. Like, I give a crap,
Yeah, although Trump actually said that. He talked about paying down the debt when he was a candidate. So he was going to reduce it. He talked about eliminating it. So it's all a bunch of lies.
Well, we're also getting into, like your father's advocacy, getting rid of the freaking IRS. He keeps mentioning that. Think that's going to happen? Is that a thing?
No, I don't see that happening. Unfortunately, I'd like to get rid of the IRS, but we're not going to be. He talked about replacing all the income taxes with tariff revenue. You can't do that. That the middle class and the poor don't have enough money to pay all those tariffs. I mean, that's the other lie, that the foreigners pay the tariffs. They don't. Americans pay the tariffs. Our businesses, our consumers eat those tariffs, not the producers in China or Canada. That's just a lie.
If I trusted these guys, I'd be given the opportunity. We're going to do away with the IRS, but we're going to have tariffs. All right, you got my attention, but like I believe anything you guys say or do, you always wind up with both anyway. So I'm wondering what's inevitable and what is a possible solution. That's not going to be selected, by the way. But I want to know what you think is the real solution, what has to happen. But then I also want to know what is going to happen. Which one you want to start off with?
Well, I told you what has to happen, right? We have to, restructure our economy. We have to let the bubble deflate. We have to allow interest rates to go up, right? We don't need lower interest rates. That's been the problem, low interest rates. We need higher interest rates so that we have more savings. And we need to invest the savings productively in building out plant and equipment. We don't want people borrowing money to buy stuff on a credit card. So we need to stop all the debt-fueled consumption and go back to savings-fueled production. And that also requires major cuts to government spending, significant cuts, including entitlements, including defense. But we're doing the opposite of all that. We're increasing government spending, and we want to lower interest rates even more. We want to print even more money to blow more air into an enormous bubble. And so that's what they're going to do. They're going to keep on blowing air into the bubble and just hope it doesn't pop. But that's a bad strategy. It's already so big. It's crazy to think that they could get it much bigger without it popping.
Well, define pop.
The pop is going to be the crash of the dollar and the bond market. So that means that even though we have a recession, interest rates and consumer prices go way up. So we have a big downturn in the economy with lots of people losing their jobs, but prices soar and interest rates soar at the same time. That's where we're headed. So everything just implodes. And there's no government bailouts anymore. The government is out of the bailout business because the reason the government was able to bail out everybody after 2008 or during COVID was because it could get away with printing a bunch of money because the world still wanted it and they wanted our debt. But if they're running from our debt, if they don't want it anymore, then we can't bail anybody out anymore. All we can do is create inflation, which makes the inflation problem we're suffering from worse.
Okay, now explain this to me while I'm thinking of it. When we had the financial crash and they do all this stimulus stuff and everything, and they just keep dumping more in, and then Donald Trump won, and I get my signature on the checks. Here's your $1,500 check, signed by Donald J. Ha ha, you owe me, Trump. So I was like, this is not conducive to a future. I'm wondering, we had a sign that had the Gerber baby on it, like we make signs like we did the Levolution signs, and it had Gerber baby stencil on it, and it said, "Mommy, what's $1 quadrillion?" And I'm just we actually even have that as a real number. And when you're talking, the million here, million there, pretty soon you're talking real money. Trillion here, trillion there, you're talking, oh my God, money. This is not possible to be paid back without them being massively inflated dollars. And they got, there's something I want to know the mechanism by which the people will see this unfold. What's going to happen? Get chickens. I mean, our whole thing is occupy the land, man. Grow your own food, educate your own kids. Get tight with your community, whatever. Because damn, and I need you to kind of describe for the masses out there, the regular mom, pa, little kids, grandparents, whatever, what life is going to be like. I mean, I could be optimistic and think that we're going to come out of this pretty quick. A year, less than 2 years. If you get the man out of your face, humans will just take care of business and be glad they have precious metals. But it's going to get funky, and it's always going to be a food thing. It turns into it's not available. It's not on the shelves. It costs too much. You don't have it. You can't get it. It's poison what you do get. This is like Soviet Union stuff. I want you to describe what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to lose their service sector jobs. A lot of people are going to see their life savings wiped out to inflation. The cost of living is going to rise dramatically so that things that people take for granted will be too expensive. So life in America is going to change for a while in that people are going to have to make do with what they've got. They're not going to be able to buy new stuff. So the cell phone that you have, that's the phone you're going to have for quite some time. The clothes you have, those are your clothes, right? The car you have, that's your car, assuming you can afford to put gas in it. So a lot of people are just going to see a big decline in their standard of living. Now, they can still have, their friends, their family, right? Their kids. I mean, you don't have to have material things to be happy or enjoy your life. I mean, you have to be able to get used to the new America. Now, I think there is a lot of potential for AI and stuff like that and robotics to restore a lot of the standard of living that we're going to lose. I mean, so there's stuff to be optimistic about. But what is the most dangerous part about this whole thing is you have all these Republicans cheerleading and rallying around Donald Trump about how great his policies are and how great the economy is. They made that same mistake under Bush on a smaller scale. And that gave us 8 years of Obama, who I thought was a pretty bad president, but not nearly as bad as the one that we're probably going to get next, because the economy is going to be so bad and voters are going to be so miserable economically, and it's all going to be blamed on Trump. It's all going to be blamed on the Republicans, and the Republicans aren't going to be able to say shit about it because they're going to own the disaster because they refuse to criticize Trump or any of these policies. So all this inflation, the dollar crisis, the whatever happens, shortages, long lines, all that is going to be on the Republicans and on their brand and on what the Republicans supposedly stand for. Free markets, limited government, but none of that is what Donald Trump gave us. So the solution is going to end up being more socialism to the mistakes that Republican socialism created. We're just going to have even worse Democratic socialism.
This is one thing that I'm hoping that we can avoid is violence. I don't. It's like they did the Charlie Kirk thing, thinking and hoping, that the right or the MAGA, the somebody, would get all violent and go start lynching gay people in the plaza in Chicago, kind of crap, and that doesn't happen. And well, damn it, what do we got to do? They just keep poking the bear.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't think there was a they behind what happened to Charlie Kirk. I mean, you had this one deranged kid who thought he was doing a good deed, getting rid of this.
Why did he think he was doing a good deed? Why?
Well, yes, because he's been brainwashed by the school system and the media. But and you could say that, yes, the establishment has blood on its hands for cultivating the ignorance that resulted in this happening. Not only the ignorance, but the hatred, because the left is basically instilling in their disciples the fact that anybody who opposes their agenda is an evil, bad person. And so that's what allows a kid like that to feel justified in killing him, because in his mind, he's killing Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, I mean, he's a hero.
I mean, think about it from my perspective, right? If I as a Jew, or even if I had a chance to kill Hitler when he was 22 years old, knowing what I know, wouldn't I kill him? Of course I'd kill him, right? And so, but when you have somebody that believes, even though people compare Trump, even though I say Trump is doing bad things, he's not even close to Hitler. You can't even say Adolf Hitler and Donald Trump in the same sentence. But the left, they think of it. They think, well, he's like our Hitler. And they probably look at Charlie Kirk as like his Goebbels, like he was like out there spreading the propaganda. And so I'm going to sacrifice myself and take him out for the good of the country. Because why else would he do it? He didn't do it for financial gain. He didn't have any. It wasn't like he hit him because he was, and it wasn't like it's not like he slept with his wife. He had no grudge against the guy other than politics. Right? He didn't know him.
This is how I want to express myself to you on this, Peter. This is how I see it. There was a lot of warnings. We had, KGB defectors interviewed by J. Edward Griffin saying this is how we're going to do it, and this is how Marxist revolution, this is how, this is how, this is how. And we get Amaryllis Kennedy, daughter-in-law of Robert Kennedy Jr., married his son, the third. She was a CIA not. She's getting interviewed by Tucker, and she goes, yeah, this Trump derangement syndrome, it's weaponized. They know that if you immerse a culture and people into this, Hitler thing or whatever it is that you do, you change them. I mean, you create this, and they get their own echo chambers. They don't listen or see anything else. They're all, hell, it could be bots. It could be AI, trolls, paid, whatever, just fostering, promoting this, encouraging it. Hell, FBI agents. So they foster and they encourage this kind of behavior. And then to think that it's not going to happen, it's just a matter of time. And I remember, I gave this example a couple nights ago. There was, I was a sophomore in high school, chemistry. They did a demonstration. The teacher goes up and took, a beaker full of sugar, and so I think it was sulfuric acid, stirred it, and then stood back. About 10 seconds, it started smoking, and then boom, in about a half a second, it was a 4-foot column of carbon. And I went, whoa, what the hell? That was cool as hell. And it made me think, I thought of that when you see this kind of spontaneous reaction from these fringe groups that are supported. They already got issues, and they just push it. You too could be a hero and somebody and go down in history as the good guy of, we'll let you out and you'll get a house. I mean, whatever the hell it is that they're BSing these guys with, it's a chemistry experiment. It is just adding different components, adding different kinds of stimuli, being in an environment, echo chamber of you got a motivation of it's the patriarchy or whatever the hell it is, and then this stuff happens every freaking time. Now they can target and do the Manchurian candidate of brainwash individuals. I'm sure that had something to do with something. But to think that you're not going to have this kind of reaction when you got congressmen, you got senators, you got state and local and everybody, and bailing them out after they burned down their cities. I mean, this is just, in October of 19, me and a friend went and saw Joker. And we were like, what the hell was that? It was a prelude. It was a trigger. It was here we go, Portland kind of crap. So for me, It was just, it's intentional, it is planned, it's encouraged, and it is funded. So then when they start getting rid of the USAID money of going after, then Trump comes in and we're going to go after these as terrorist organizations, whatever. All right, well, make your case. And then Pam Bond, well, hate speech, we're going to, whoa. Now, we're not giving you power to go after hate speech or what. So it's just, these people are not libertarian. I can tell you that. They're not. Well, the proper role of government is protection of individual rights. They're not about that. And it feeds into everything that they do. The debt the inflation that's going to happen, the zombie apocalypse of whatever the hell, and it's going to take what? Freedom's Phoenix, the rebirth. How is that going to manifest itself after it happens, when it goes? When you and your clients and everyone you protected their wealth, they're doing fine. They're out here ready to rebuild society. Then what, Peter?
I don't know. As I said, we could go in the wrong direction first because we could double down on the failed policies that created the problem because of the way Trump has, allowed the media to frame this. Because by claiming how great the economy is, he says we've got the hottest economy in the world. It's the greatest economy in the world. And that's a lie. And everybody is going to know that's a lie when, the wheels fall off the bus, right? I mean, it's going to be obvious. And now Trump's going to own it. And the narrative is going to be that Trump inherited a great economy from Biden and destroyed it with, Republican principles of capitalism and deregulation and free markets, none of which Trump believes in. And his policies worked counter to that. And so, but they're going to say, you see, this means we can't have capitalism. We need to have this democratic socialism. The government needs to take control of the economy. We need to take control of the means of production. And this is the direction that we're going to be headed in.
Universal basic income.
And, a lot of disillusioned people who voted for Trump are going to go and vote for the socialists, like this guy Mandami, who's about to become the mayor of New York, as a, admitted communist, basically. He's trying to deny it now, but, pretty soon you won't have to deny being a communist because communism is going to be pretty popular.
Oh, hell, they don't now. Kobe, Brennan, I mean, these guys, I'm proud of it, too. I voted communist. Actually say it. It's like, are you kidding me? Where the hell are we on this? And that's one thing, the social aspect of the zeitgeist, the general public opinion thing on Obama. What do you think? Is that bloom starting to fall off? I mean, Obama losing it?
I don't know. Is there something new with Obama?
Well, yeah, he's kind of getting abandoned after all of this crap he's doubling down on, and it's just not popular. All these liberal and progressive talk show hosts are dropping like flies.
Yeah, I do think, that's because you still have a lot of people who don't realize how bad the economy is yet. So when it hits the fan, these guys are going to, get a bit of a bounce because they're going to be able to say, we told you so, even though they're wrong about what they told us. When everything falls apart on Trump's watch, right, that's going to raise a lot of their credibility, right? Trump's going to make Biden look good, which you think is a hard thing to do. How do you make Biden look good? Well,
like
blow
this.
up the economy even worse.
I remember, what was it? It was George Daddy Bush, I think was the time, is when it's the economy, stupid. That was a big thing. It's the economy. Yeah, it's the economy. It's the economy. Well, that's how they're acting. They're looking for this short-term, next quarter thinking of whatever. And while China and a lot of the rest of the world are thinking much longer term, and you would think that Trump would realize this. Is he really this way? Is he going along to get along? Is it Palantir and Vance, really rule the planet? I mean, what's going on? Netanyahu's telling them what to do with memos. I mean, what is happening?
Well, I think Trump is running the White House as part of Trump Enterprises. I think that Trump's goal is to make money for Donald Trump, to make money for his family, to make money for his friends. And so I think that's what's driving all of his policies.
Really?
I don't think what he's doing, and that, a perfect example is Fannie and Freddie. I mean, the policy is completely asinine. Every Republican should be opposing it. But it's being pushed down because a lot of his friends own stock and will cash out with billions. And so, and the same thing with the crypto industry. All
right. Well, explain Fannie and Freddie. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. Whatever. What are you talking about?
Well, those were the GSEs that went bankrupt during the 2008 financial crisis. They were a main reason that we had a 2008 financial crisis, the moral hazard, because a lot of people let Fannie and Freddie borrow a lot of money because they assumed the government would bail them out if they failed. Now, the government never claimed that. It was just an assumption. And it turned out the assumption was correct because the government did bail out the people who bought all their debt. But what Trump should be doing is abolishing Fannie and Freddie, But instead, he wants to resurrect them, bring them out of government conservatorship. But now he wants to basically make that implicit guarantee explicit. He wants the government to reassure the markets that, yes, if something bad happens, we will bail them out again. And that is going to be an even worse moral hazard than the one we had before. And it's an even bigger distortion to the economy and the housing market. And it's going to ultimately lead to another collapse, another government bailout. It's horrible policy. But the only thing I can think of that would drive it is the fact that a lot of people, knowing that Trump would do this, bought Fannie and Freddie stock at $1.50 to $2, and they want to cash out at $20 or $30. It's like 13 or 14 now. But some of his biggest backers and biggest donors loaded up on that stock on the expectation that he would do this, even though it's bad.
Yeah, but did
policy.
Nancy Pelosi? Was she following Trump?
She's probably in on it, but I don't know. Maybe she didn't get the insider information from Trump.
Didn't get the memo. It was about 2005 when Charles Goyette, I know you know Charles. Charles, big talk show here, and we shared a station, and I produced for him too. And every week we had Bill Rogers on. And he's from Shanghai, he's from New York, he's from whatever, billionaire biker guy. And I remember him saying when Charles wrote his book, The Dollar Meltdown, he's like, I need those quotes. Well, I had all the CDs of all the shows, a stack of them, went to that, sure enough, there it is. Because I remember Rogers saying, it's done. Here comes the housing thing, because the quarterly statements that were required by Freddie and Fannie, they just stopped doing. They just stopped. And he goes, here we go. I've been telling everybody, here we go. They can't show the number because they know what's going to happen. This is like 2005. Well, then here it came. Where do you think they are now? Back then, Freddie and Fannie was what? Kind of sort of almost guarantee your mortgage so the banks would get a portion, or it's backed by some reserve or something. Because whatever they think they got a program to, stimulus or bail out banks or do a little trillion here, a trillion there, and it goes overseas, and what the hell just happened? 20-something trillion. I mean, what the hell? This is not going to help you when the tsunami is gazillions. I mean, this is a tsunami that's coming, and none of your programs are going to cover it, in my opinion.
I know. And people still don't get it because they look at the Dow Jones and they see it at a record high, and they assume that, Peter Schiff was wrong to be critical. If you bought gold 25 years ago instead of the S&P or the Dow, you're actually better off. The real price of U.S. stocks over the last 25 years has gone down. And one of the worst years is this year. And the second worst year was probably last year. I mean, so the rate at which the U.S. stock market is now falling, priced in gold, is accelerating. And people don't even get it. It's like, the frog being boiled in a pot of oil. Doesn't realize he's being boiled, so he doesn't jump out. And that's what's happening. People are going to wake up and realize that their savings and their investments have been boiled. Because even though the price has gone up, the real value has gone way down, right? Because the inflation is going to wipe out the purchasing power of most people's financial assets.
Okay, if people wanted to, what Peter Schiff said, help me with keep my money. Can I just keep it? Maybe I'll make some. But I can keep it. Let's do that. So your services that you're offering is what? Just buy gold and we'll make it easy for you. Get our gold, Schiff Gold.
Well, Schiff Gold, everybody should own gold and silver, and everybody should buy it from Schiff Gold. Not just because I'll make a few bucks if you buy it from me, but because I'll only make a few bucks. My competitors make a lot of money because they overcharge their customers. So we don't do that. You will get the best prices. You're not going to get steered into these high markup products that benefit the company and not the customer. That's why I set up Schiff Gold, was because before I had Schiff Gold and I just told people go out and buy gold, I would find out they got ripped off. And so to make sure that nobody gets ripped off, just buy it from Schiff Gold, and you won't. So you can go to our website, SchiffGold.com. Go today. Don't wait. and buy yourself some gold or silver and take delivery. Keep that gold and silver safe in your house somewhere.
Before you go, that is one thing that I want to make sure we talked about. I made a decision. I want to go get some gold. Out of my retirement, if I got in a big lump of it's mine, right? It's kind of mine. It's sort of mine. Can I be mine? Oh, I got to pay some tax penalty because it's mine. All right, well, I want it mine anyway. Bite me. So I go get mine. And can I transfer that retirement into physical gold I can hold? Or I got to take the hit? What's the mechanism?
Schiff Gold will set up a gold IRA, and you can actually hold physical gold in an IRA. We set up a lot of those, so you can get that done.
When did that start? That was not legal before. How many years?
I don't know. Long time.
All right. So I can take my retirement. Which one? Just my 401k, my IRA, and I can just
if you can roll it into a self-directed IRA, yes.
So I can fill out a form. Your sales guys will, we'd be helping you. I fill out the form. It goes in. I take from that pretend account the government had of the list of something, and it goes over, and I physically get the McDuck roll around touchy-feely my goal.
No. You can't touch it yourself. That's how IRAs work. You have to have a third-party custodian to keep it as an IRA. So you can't physically hold your gold, but your IRA can own physical gold. Now, when it comes time to make withdrawals, you can withdraw the physical gold. That's totally legal. So when you're making withdrawals, you can withdraw it in kind in gold. But if you want to keep the tax benefit and you don't want to have to pay taxes, you can't constructively take control of that gold. It has to be with a third party. But everything will be when you go to Schiff Gold and call up the guys there, they will walk you through the strategy on how to set up a gold IRA where there's no tax consequences. So you can roll over an existing IRA.
Yeah, but there's no gold in my pocket either. I mean,
then you got to buy, Ernie, if you want the gold in your pocket, you can't use IRA money. You got to just buy it with your regular personal money. Then you can put it in your pocket and put it in your safe or do whatever you want. So that's one thing that I do.
But why do they do that? That just seems like it's not really my money.
It is your money, but the government says, look, we're giving you a tax break, so you got to do it our way. Right? That's just the rules, right? If you want the tax break, I don't deal with that anymore personally. I moved to Puerto Rico. I don't pay capital gains taxes, so I'm here. I just deal with the corruption in the Puerto Rico government, which may be even worse. But in any event, getting back to what I do, so there's physical gold and silver at Schiff Gold, but then we manage money through Euro Pacific Asset Management. We have separately managed accounts. We have mutual funds, and people can buy my mutual funds through us, or they can buy them at any discount broker, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Ameritrade, all these, all these companies have my funds. You can buy them no load. My gold fund is EPGIX. That's the no load symbol of my gold fund, which is up about 100% on the year. But even if you look at my regular stock fund, Euro Pacific Dividend Payer Fund, EPDIX, that fund is up about, 45% on the year. Compare that to this U.S. stock market, it's about triple. And it owns dividend-paying foreign stocks. EPDIX. Yeah, that's it. What's happening right now is it's early in the transition. The global investor is taking their money out of U.S. stocks and investing it back in their own markets. That's why people have made 3 times as much money investing internationally this year as they did investing in the U.S. And this trend, I think, is early and will continue for the rest of the decade and into the next. So if you have an account right now, a brokerage account, a managed account, you should call up Euro Pacific Asset Management, talk to my advisors there, go to our website, europac.com. We can move your portfolio into a portfolio of foreign stocks and foreign bonds that I believe will vastly outperform the U.S. stocks and U.S. bond market. And you could do it yourself just by buying my mutual funds no load at any discount broker. And if you want to get information on my mutual funds, you can go to my website, europac.com, and find this stuff on the mutual funds.
Okay. I remember this presentation, what you just said, I remember. And what it was is when we, I'll show you special editions, we go down to Freedom Summits. When you were talking to us, Freedom Summit back in whenever it was, and you see, we got great speakers. I mean, this is like a thing. Well, one of them was Peter Schiff, and he said exactly what he just said. He goes, you need to get in some foreign stocks. You need to get out of the U.S. dollar, you freaking morons, in a nice way. But this was, you were get out, get out, get out. The call came from inside. So you're like telling everybody that. People started transferring their stuff over to you. And then what happened? It happened. And they go, Peter Schiff was right. Peter Schiff was right. So now I'm looking at, you saying pretty much the same thing. You said, so you can see a lot of great names, we've had on the Freedom Summits over the years. And it was just so obvious that Peter understood what he was talking about. And even when you were making crap tons of money, and they're going, oh, we could write it out longer. Let's do it a little bit more. And you go, nope, 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 nope. We need to, cash in now because they're not going to be able to pay off this stuff. They're going to go all bankrupt and so on. What were you thinking back then? Tell us what I'm talking about.
Well, I didn't know back then that we would kick the can down the road for as long as we had. So as it turned out, you didn't really have to follow my advice way back then, although on gold, it would have been great. But you didn't have to get out of U.S. stocks because they've done pretty well until now this last year where the foreign stocks have exploded. But I think now the problems that I was talking about, when I wrote Crash Proof are so much bigger now than they were then because we delayed the ultimate crash that I was writing would come, which still hasn't come, but I believe is now just around the corner. We're going to get the real crash, which was the subject of my last book, which is still, over 10 years old, right? We still haven't had the real crash, but it is coming. But because it took so long, and during that delay, the problems got so much worse, the crash is going to be a lot bigger. And that means it's that much more important for people to not only protect themselves, but to petition themselves to profit. And the time to do that, I believe, is running out. I mean, people have to act quickly. And I'm not just saying that to create a sense of urgency. There is a sense of urgency. I'm not creating it. It exists. It's just that people don't recognize the nature of this emergency.
It's right there.
They're oblivious to it. But wake up and look at what's happening to gold. Look at what's happening now to gold stocks. This doesn't just happen, when there's no real fundamental cause, right? This is some serious stuff that's going on, and it means something. It's not like you could just ignore it.
Well, we haven't seen. I got this so much from friends and family, and I would go, what do you do? What do you do, Silver? Because I'm not smart enough or have enough faith in the system. I don't trust the election process. I don't trust the, financial. I don't trust the Fed. I don't trust the politics. I don't trust, but I do trust that, bullion, ounces, 10-ounce bars of whatever is not going to zero. It's still going to get you, a meal, it's still going to something. So that was my thought process. And, and something of value like ammunition or guns or something, there's some other stuff I'm willing to have that kind of lasts, but are useful. A lot of my friends, they pick other stuff. One guy, he has a bunch. I went in a storage container he has up in his bug out location cabin he has, and he had cases of Crown Royal. I go, man, you must really like Crown Royal. He goes, no, I don't drink. It's currency, boy, So I'm going, okay, so there's that. One guy got a bunch of primers. That's the only thing you can't really, you can reload and you melt down lead and you whatever, but it's the primer. So he bought barrels full of primers. Well, that was back in the 90s, and he made bank on that. So it's just understanding what's coming and what you really should be doing. And for me, it is investing in yourself and your family and your children, in your health, grow your own food, educate your own kids kind of thing. And as a grandfather, I'm really, I got 4 kids and 12 grandkids, so I'm invested. I'm in. The only thing I can do now really is investing in the future of my family is to provide out in the middle of, in the desert, lone prairie of the desert of, a place to exercise your freedoms, your liberty, to sustain your life, devoid of shiny badges and guns coming at me with F-16s all the time. So I'm just like, look, I'm good. I see what's coming. Preparing for that with people that have more resources, they go to Peter Schiff or Schiff Gold, or to have it just to make sure that you have an index that is with the right mindset, that's not going to leave you freaking stranded, destitute, dead. So I'm what is it in this index? What are the types of things? What is it that you're betting on here and abroad that gives you so much confidence that you're doing well. You're making it, so I'm just wondering what it is.
Look, this is the most money I've made in 1 year, and so it's not just me. Obviously, this is the best year of performance for my clients, right? Because I eat my own cooking. In fact, I have seconds and thirds. I'm my biggest client. So if my clients are doing well, then I'm doing well. But look, I am betting on a complete restructuring of the global economic order that is going to see a significant decline in the value of U.S. stocks and assets relative to the rest of the world. And
so you'll own something and be happy? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think the emerging markets are going to finally emerge. I think, we're laughing at the fact that India and China and Russia are now all buddies because we drove them together. But they're going to accomplish a lot more without us than with us, because we were a drain on their economy. They had to prop up our economy by subsidizing it with exports and their capital. They're going to be much better off trading with themselves instead of squandering their output on Americans on credit. And so I'm buying stocks abroad that are going to benefit from a realignment of the U.S. dollar. It's going to be a lot lower than it is today. The U.S. economy is going to be much smaller as a percentage of the global economy. And the U.S. dollar is going to be just another currency. It's not going to be the reserve currency. We're not going to be able to use it as a crutch anymore or a club to hit other countries with. Central banks are going to be using gold as their primary reserve asset, not U.S. dollars. And that's another reason why the price of gold is going to be much higher.
This is a good thing to bring up, in that light. This is why Trump is going after other countries that are doing anything in competition or abandoning or, replacing the U.S. dollar, petrodollar, whatever dollar you want to call it. And
but
they're going, look, we'll sanction you. We're going to kick your ass. We got new F-47. We're going to do. You better be using the dollar.
But the problem is his big deficit spending with the big beautiful bill and his hijacking of the Federal Reserve and demanding lower interest rates. That's the reason people are getting rid of their dollars. So if he really wanted people to hold dollars, he would have the opposite fiscal and monetary policy. So, you can't do what Trump is doing. You can't deliberately destroy the dollar and then get mad at people if they don't want to go down with the sinking ship, right? He's putting holes in the ship, right? So if you want people not to abandon the ship, then don't put more holes in it. Like, how about patching it up, right? So the whole thing is ridiculous. But the world isn't going to listen to Donald Trump's empty threats. They're not going to go down with this ship. They're getting off, and they're getting into a sounder ship, which is gold. Okay, now I can get your opinion about this. He comes in, Elon Musk goes, we're going to play Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, like if there isn't a bigger oxymoron. So they go in and they identify all that we got to cut spending. It is a thing. Then Elon, I don't know, he's Elon, does whatever, but he's like, man, I'm done. These guys they're never going to fix. Do you think that
the midterm election in 26, you vote Republican. We're gonna grow our way out of it. That's gonna be a smaller percentage of GDP. We're gonna be. The big beautiful bill, gotta have it. Thomas Massey needs to be primaried. Israel's gonna do ads against him because he wouldn't vote for it. You're doing it wrong. So that was stupid. When they went after Massey, that was the dumbest thing they could have done. I was like, man, you just showed your colors, man. What the hell? So and then you got Rand Paul coming out. We're going to have to ratchet up the retirement age to 70 because this is not working. Well, I knew they were going to get out of my reach, sons of bitches. So then I'm going, all right, what is the solution? What do you think is going to happen? Are they going to cut spending? Is that ever going to happen? Okay, let me make this statement real quick. A friend of mine, I go, where do you think I asked the same question? And he goes, because I just made the decision, just keep buying silver. And they go, well, Ernie, do you think the government will ever stop increasing spending? Nope, there's your answer, buy silver. Call Euro Pacific, get Schiff Gold, do it. Do you think they're ever going to stop? They are not.
No, in fact, they're going to keep on spending until the money they're spending doesn't buy anything. And that's going to be the problem, right? They can spend all the money they want, but they can't make it buy anything. So, if they're printing money that has no value, who cares, right? No, but if you can't buy anything, right? If the government hands you $1 trillion and a pack of chewing gum is $2 trillion, you still don't have enough money to buy it, right? So it doesn't matter.
I'm of the same mind, Peter, and it has been interesting that it has gone on as long as it has, and they're always yanking something else out of their ass. It is like, wow. And this latest thing was this genius bill. And I'm going, whoa. And what is my big concern has always been, it's programmable money. You have to buy this, you can't buy that. We get to see what you get. Why did you do whatever? We get our cut at the transaction. I remember there was a thing Doug Scribner created. It was called Watch My Bit. And what it was, like YouTube, but to watch it, it was micropayments. You just do, boom, 25 cents, click the button, it dispersed the crypto, even the drummer got paid. I mean, it was just immediately did it, and it was cool. But then the transaction fees got up to $1 gazillion, so it wasn't a viable option anymore. But it was a cool idea. But what it opens up is that when you have the government with this digital programmable central bank digital currency, whatever the hell you want to call it, by any other name, same thing, they're going to be able to extract their tax, their cut, their import fee, their tariff, their whatever the hell, immediately at the beginning. And what's to make you think that they're not going to keep changing it and it's going to keep going up? Oh, and they're probably not going to do away with the income tax because they get too much information and control you from there. So this central bank digital currency thing, they're going to program, they're going to do it, they're going, we don't need the dollar anymore, we got crypto.
That's one of the things that Trump said he would not do, is have a central bank digital currency.
Because, well, hell, then he probably won't do it then.
But I don't know what I mean, when we'll see what happens when the dollar starts crashing and prices start running out of control, what kind of desperate measures they try to use to try to maybe prevent people from getting rid of their dollars, making it illegal for people to buy Swiss francs or euros or other currencies, or who knows, or maybe stop people from buying gold or whatever, because they may try to plug up all the, the escape routes, because that's people are going to be leaving. I don't know that it's going to be a big deal when the foreigners are leaving. So when the Germans or the Canadians or the Russians sell their dollars and buy gold, it's not necessarily a crisis. But when the Americans start doing it, when even American citizens don't want dollars, that's a big problem.
This is, you're going, when the shoe shine boy and the maid and the whatever start, talking about buying, selling, whatever, you're, at a peak kind of thing. And I wanted to share this with you, my personal experience. I was talking to one of my sons that's, all cryptoed up, genius kid, super calc, whatever, one of those guys. And, but he's also, state football captain kind of, he's an all around Michelangelo type. So he's really informed, and takes a lot of pride in really understanding this. He's a Peter Schiff fan. But what happened was, I was talking about, I'm going, God, what is it? It's going to go. They're doing this crypto thing. They're doing all the stuff that we were talking about. And he's like, I can't believe you're a talk show. You're never a prophet in your own land. I'll just tell you that. And he goes, I can't believe that you're a talk show host and that you got, it's kind of, father-son relationship like you with your dad, Erwin. I'm sure you know what I mean. So he's like, I can't believe you're so dumb. They're doing the crypto. All this is just to sop up all the liquidity, all the extra dollars that are coming. That's it. And the surveillance and control.
How are they socking them up?
Sopping them up when you have all the
the
IRAs and everything, the treasuries. Yeah.
They're trying to get the stable coins to buy treasuries. But it doesn't create any real new demand because people are buying treasuries with money they would have put into a money market. I mean, if they're buying stable coins, rather, they're using it with money they would have kept in a money market. And so instead of the money market buying the treasuries, the stable coin issuer buys them. But it's a worse deal for the customer because at least if I put my money in a money market, I get the interest. If you put your money into a stable coin, they get the interest. You don't get anything. So the whole
either way, you're
scam.
Investing in a debt. The U.S. You're sucking up. You're taking this money because this is the point he was making. He goes, look at what happened to gold and silver. If they didn't have stable coins and cryptos and this, where do you think that money would go? To buy more gold and silver, and it would shot up even more. True or false?
And that is great for all the foreign central banks that want to buy gold and are buying gold because they get it cheaper. And it's great for all the Chinese and all the Indians who are buying gold every day. They're getting it a lot cheaper because Americans are too dumb to buy it. In fact, Americans have been selling their gold all year. There's been net outflows of these, gold ETFs. So Americans are selling their gold to the Chinese. Right? Who are buying it? So who do you think is doing the right thing and who do you think is doing the wrong thing?
Wow. We are so wow. I'm wow. And one thing in 07-08, when I was, pontificating, going deep dive, and it just comes down to principle. I don't care, just buy silver. But when I was going, in on this back then, I was looking at what would be the best thing to invest in. At the same time, you're starting to get this micro, don't go to college, invest in your own education, a trade, your own capability, make sure you got, like a, solar power generator, you got this, you got that. Investment in, gold and silver, well, after you get all your food, that kind of thing. So we're at that stage again. We got another generation next. These teenagers are now in their 30s with kids. And they have they been prepared enough to know that they don't want to go hungry? Bow. So what is it that you're saying? Come to your young new guys, might even have some crypto, going to Schiff Gold to get stocked up after you what? After what's a basic thing you need to after when they talk to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, the basic thing is to get your physical gold and silver, get that out of the way because you should have 5 or 10%. I was listening to Jeff Gundlach interviewed on TV. He said people should have 25% of their money in physical gold. And the reason I don't recommend that is because I'm telling people to have gold stocks too. So, I think they should have physical gold and then they should have gold mining stocks because they're still so cheap and they pay decent dividends. You get, a nice dividend on your gold stocks and those dividends are going to go up, I think, quite a bit because their profits are going to go way up. So they're going to have a lot more money to pay higher dividends.
I understand. Well, you got FDR confiscating gold and the Treasury agent standing there at your safe deposit box, and it's ours now at $20, and they revalued $35, and sucks to be you. I mean, they've done this. Now they wouldn't do that. That'd be wrong. Okay. So now they have the electronic means by which to do this, and you got all these platforms and exchanges, and you have, the third party. We pinky swear got it over here on the shelf, and it's your no. We got it. We're complying with the law, but the law says that we got it, and you don't got it, but you get the value of that kind of, And what is the risk of them going? Yep, IRS says Treasury guy button. We're going, this account, you're not allowed, which is exactly what happened. You used to have, I got a Swiss, safe deposit box that nobody, and then the IRS comes in and makes them, whatever. I did it with eGold in Dubai when I first started doing radio. We were taking, donations in eGold and do it. They always, when they need it, you need it the most, those tie it up. Yeah, it's kind of your money. You just can't have it now. What's the threat there? I'm for gimme. I understand, don't want to miss out on, the gains that you can make in your funds and so on. But, come on, Peter, be straight with me. How much of a threat do you think they just come take it if it's not where I'm laying on it?
They don't have to take it. Like, in 1933, when the U.S. government took everybody's gold, they didn't actually send people to people's homes and find their gold. People voluntarily, or they weren't volunteering because they were required, but people went into government offices and handed in their gold, right? And when they handed it in, it was worth $20 an ounce. And after Roosevelt got it all, he devalued the dollar, and now it was worth $35 an ounce. So the people who complied with the law got screwed. The people who violated the law, kept their gold, and they had gold now at $35 an ounce instead of $20. But they don't have to do that now. They don't have to take our gold because they just print money. Because back then, when Roosevelt was there, you couldn't just print money. You needed to have the gold. Well, the U.S. government now, the Fed, they just print whatever the hell they want. And so they don't have to come and take your money. They can just take all your purchasing power. And they will from most people, because 99% of the people are not going to be customers of Schiff Gold or any other gold company. They're not going to have these foreign stocks. So the low-hanging fruit is just to wipe everybody out through inflation. That's how they're going to take everybody's purchasing power. They're just going to create it. They're going to print money and outbid you for everything. So you can avoid that tax by getting out of the dollar now before they destroy it.
All right.
And getting into hard assets.
I'm a definite, do that. Peter Schiff, he may not be a broken clock, but he's right on a regular basis. Okay, so I'm just it's coming around now.
Yes.
This is so neon flashing obvious that I want people to understand. This is not an if thing; it's a when thing. Why do you think we're closer now? What has transpired? What has happened that makes it seem, imminent? I always say this, Peter. I go, it won't happen all at once, but it will happen overnight. And they're going, what the hell are you talking? I go, you see it. It's in the news. It's in the headlines. You see the artillery shells going off over the horizon. It's all of a sudden by morning, they're in your backyard. It's Monday, and here it comes. So here it is.
Well, look, by definition, if we're going to have a crisis eventually, every day we're one day closer. But what makes me feel particularly strong that it's imminent now, more so than I felt in the past. I remember I was forecasting the 2008 economic crisis for several years before it happened. But when I saw the blow up in subprime, which I had been warning about, because we had a hedge fund that shorted subprime. So when I saw the subprime market blew up, that was an indication that what I've been warning about for a few years was about to happen. But even after that happened, the media was still laughing at my forecasts. And, that's what became the subject matter for the Peter Schiff was right video, because I was so right and everybody else was so wrong. Well, what I'm seeing now that makes me think that they can't kick the can down the road for another 10 years, that this is going to happen, is that we've gotten to the point now, where the deficits are just skyrocketing out of all proportion, $3 trillion, $4 trillion a year. The Fed, when they started cutting rates last time, long-term interest rates went up. So now the Fed has lost control of the bond market. Bond market long yields are rising despite the Fed cutting. Gold has broken out of its sideways pattern and is soaring to record highs. The dollar is off to one of its worst starts of a year ever, but is still way overvalued and headed down. So I think you can look at the cracks in the bond market, in the foreign exchange market, look at the explosive up move in gold, look at the enormity of the problems now with the trend deficits, the budget deficits, and the trade deficits exploding at new record highs. the desperation of Trump and the fact that the world is de-dollarizing. This is the first time that this has happened, where the global central banks have thrown in the towel. They've had enough. They want out. They are getting rid of their dollars. They are converting them into gold. This has not happened over the last 10 years. It just started last year. It's accelerating now. So, this is the final chapter. How many pages are in it? That I don't know. But this is the end of it. So you got to hurry up.
Hurry up, hurry up. Commercial real estate, I thought in 07, 08, that was when that was going to go. In fact, there was a 6-week break I had between two radio stations, and I took the opportunity to get my real estate license because my wife is in real estate, and she had access to a bunch of data. And so I go, well, that's cool. I got nothing to do for 6 weeks. So I did that. My anticipation and plan is that commercial real estate was going to take a dump here, and there's going to be opportunities, which now there is. I mean, everybody's moving their company to Arizona. But, I thought back then, I'm going, commercial real estate is going to take a dump. They can't keep this on the balance sheets of these banks. Well, they did. They kicked that can down the road. But now it's starting to go. And now we have subprime auto loans. And they had all these, immigrants would come here. They could get a loan. Of course, it was high interest without a social security number or any kind of documentation, whatever. Yeah, so it's like ninja loans for houses for cars. So now here the subprime car is going. That's a sign. You have all these bankruptcies are at all-time highs. Certainly Canada is really getting the crap beat out of them. Then you get, I got Trump going, well, we're investing in infrastructure in America. We're going to spend America in America. And we got to have nuclear plants. You want to have your own nuke plant, your Amazon new factory of data center of AI, robot, whatever the hell? Absolutely. You go knock yourself out. We'll give you a permit. Go do it. I'm like, fine. They want to build up this data center. They want to process what they want to do on their own property. I don't care. But that's not what's going on. Here in the United States, your electric bill is going up, and it's got an extra fee because you're paying for the plant. And I'm going, what the crap? They can build their own damn plant. Why am I paying for this extra capacity that they're doing? Whatever. So we'll see. Energy. Do you think that we're going to, how long before we're going to have a surplus of energy? Is there ever going to be a surplus? Are they going to just suck it up?
Eventually, but we're going to go through a shortage for a while because when the dollar collapses, that's going to push up oil prices dramatically, and it's going to increase oil demand all over the world. And because when the dollar goes down, oil is going to be cheaper for everybody else and much more expensive for Americans. So the world is going to consume a lot of oil, and it's going to come at the expense of Americans who are going to consume a lot less. And we're going to consume a lot less because we're going to use a lot less. So Americans aren't going to be driving as much, or, we're going to have to change our habits because we're going to be a lot poorer. I mean, I'm not going to be a lot poorer, but a lot of Americans will be.
So this goes back to my point. I wake up every morning, I got, excess energy in my batteries for the Arizona sun comes up. Woohoo! I made it. I had to have listeners sending me their bills showing me where they're paying extra for. Well, I got 15 gazillion solar plants going up around Palo Verde out here. But do we invest in energy capacity? Get your own solar panels? Plant your own garden, source your own water, educate your own kids, start to go, high-tech Amish. I mean, that I'm like, the Amish got going on. How unhappy are they? How exposed are they? How hungry are they going to be? Well, you add a cell phone and a laptop and, I'm good. I'm there. So what is it that you think people should be purchasing? And you keep saying, buy more gold, buy gold, buy gold, but then you can't eat it. I mean, what is it that you need to be at a minimum stage in your life to be able to start considering buying gold?
Well, you mean to buy gold right now? I mean, there's nothing to consider. I mean, it's just the price is going to keep going up.
I need food. Give me, 3 months, a year? I mean, it's going to be a food thing, Peter. I guarantee it's going to be a food thing.
Yeah.
They're going to be, like the Holocaust, here's my wedding ring so I can have a cookie. I mean, here we go. So it's always good to have precious metals. I get that. But is there any minimum, Mormon year, 3 month something that you're looking at to weather this storm?
No, I mean, my portfolio is the crash-proof, storm-proof portfolio. That's all I could, got. I mean, yeah, you could load up on. I've been telling people for a long time to keep things stored that you need to buy because everything's going to get more expensive until eventually you can't buy it if the government comes up with price controls. Because if they put price controls on goods, then the goods aren't going to be there. They'll be there on the black market, but they'll be really expensive there. So people can stock up on things that they'll need in the future. But as I said, buy gold and silver, buy foreign stocks, listen to the Peter Schiff show so you know what's going on. Listen to your show, and subscribe. I saw you flashed our newsletter, Schiff Sovereign. Subscribe to our newsletter. I mean, we're putting out some great content. It's free. And you got to go to SchiffSovereign.com and sign up.
This is one thing I tell you, I was to my audience, and we'll wrap it up here in a second. I was telling my audience, I'm going, look, this is going to be a food thing. You need to get some food. They do something stupid. And I go, Donna, need another 50-pound bag of beans. I mean, whatever. We just keep stocking up.
Yeah.
It was COVID happened. We did the Love Bus Liberty Tour. Then we bought the land here doing that. When the grandkids came over to help Donna go through the attic while I was working, refurbing the bus back east, and we're getting all ready, they go in and the lockdowns had happened. They went, that March, and they up in the attic. We found it. We found it. Gamma, we found it. Found what? All the hundreds of rolls of toilet paper and the tampons. Even though Donna doesn't need tampons anymore, I was telling the audience, I'm going, all menstruating women must come to me. Because you guys are going to be wanting to have some tampons, and they're not going to be there. And you're going to want some toilet paper, and you're going to want some paper towels, and you're going to want, and then we had a bunch of sanitizer too, just because it was on sale at, Sam's before. So the thing is, I felt prepared. My family was they're all worried about you couldn't get toilet paper. I go, well, we know where it is. Grandma and Grandpa have it, So this is why I'm going, there's some basic fundamental things that you want to make sure that, you're not having to, wait, Peter, I need some of my gold back so I can buy some Spam. I mean, so this is the point that I'm making. There's a minimum, you need to, weather this storm before you go, and I'll give you an opportunity, commercial again. How many months, years do you think before we recover as an American society, regardless of governments or what? I mean, that we start parallel commerce, agris market, just don't die. What do you think?
Look,
what period?
I don't know. It depends on what we do in the aftermath and whether we, correctly attribute our problems to too much government and central banking, and we abandon all that and allow and go for free market solutions with a much smaller government, then we'll recover very quickly and things will get good fast. If, on the other hand, we conclude that the problem was not enough government and too much capitalism, and the solution is that we give more government power and more power to the central bankers, then it's going to be a long, long time before there's any light at the end of this tunnel. So I will do my best to try to help persuade the public. I'll have credibility because I've been criticizing it all along, including criticizing the mistakes of Trump. I will be very wealthy. I don't mind spending some of my billions to help sway the nation in the right direction, because I won't be able to live long enough to spend it, and my kids don't deserve that much. So I'll try to do what I can, and I hope that's another reason I want so many people who follow me to do what I recommend, because I want my followers to have money to help. I want them to be able to make a difference, to fund
build society
the right
back up
candidates. Yeah, I mean, because if you're broke like everybody else, you can't do anything. See, the good news is most of the people on the left are going to get wiped out. So, but the people who understand and listen to me and follow my advice, we're going to be in good shape.
One thing, I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
The one thing that we're looking for, because it is easier to spend crypto online and to have a community that communicate, you want, privacy. You want to be able not be surveilled all the time. You want to have private communications. You want to be able to do transactions and so on. Gold and silver doesn't really facilitate that. And when you have, it's gold, silver backed token of what? Yeah, where is it? Show me where it is. If I can't, it's here in the backyard of the basement of we buried whatever the hell. I'm like, I don't trust you anyway. So this is one reason why we're looking for a communication platform. That's why we do interplanetary file share, IPFS, for like this show will go up and it can't be deleted or censored or anything. We're really big on that. And then we do the other platforms, but I'm just, I want to have mine. You can't be screwing with it. Because I'm tired of going back to even some of your old interviews with us. Oh, video not available. Of course, we got the MP3 and everything. Video not available. You did it wrong. It's gone. So years ago, we said, no, we're not doing that anymore. So we take care of that. But I need to be able to have a community. I need to be able to have an agris market. I need to be able to trade, privately. So there's a project called Xano. That's a crypto product that we're delving into. Now, I've done others, Made Safe, Quartal, Monero, Pirate Chain, with a lot of these, because I want to see more of that in the world. So you support what you want to see more of. I want to see decentralization. I want to see privacy. I want to see speed. I want to see accurate security, all these kinds, which is answered.
You've got all that with gold and silver.
Exactly. That's kind of my point. All this stuff, I just sitting here throwing you a softball because, but it just lacks that ease and greasy, make it go through internet thing.
Yeah.
So
anyway, look, great. I got to hop here.
No, thanks for spending the extra time with me, Peter. This was, I don't feel better. I feel more informed.
Well, hopefully your listeners will not just take away the information, but the action. Believe me, the one thing you don't want to do is the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Oh, I should have listened to Peter Schiff. I could have done this. I should have done that. Don't do any of that stuff. Listen to me. Do what I'm telling you. Go to Schiff Gold today, right now. Buy some gold and silver. Look at my mutual funds. Go to your brokerage account. Call up my brokers, and get your financial house in order before it falls apart.
He has done this for people we love. We had him as a speaker, and a lot of the people that did listen to him did okay. But I want to make sure that you guys know help is available, and at least go and open up the relationship. If you do that, then you can act a lot faster instead of rushing. And it's a rush now. Better get on it, just saying.
Yeah. Well, Peter, it's going to be a rush, but you want to beat the stampede, because when everybody is rushing for the exits, you get trampled and you may not get out.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. You bet, buddy. Peace. Thank you, man. You too.